Hey, I'm Mike Bloom, and today we're talking about CASPA. CASPA stands for Consume, Analyze, Scaffold, Produce, and Assess. And this is an iterative model that we use at the Studio for Teaching and Learning Innovation to help students tell better stories, to iterate their stories. So what does that look like in practice? At Story School, what we do is we get faculty members to give students examples of the kind of work that they expect the students to be able to produce. So if you've got a podcast assignment, the first thing that you want to do is figure out, how does podcasting fit in with my course, right? Are there podcasts that have the kind of academic rigor or interest that I can actually show to my students and say, here, podcasts are valid learning objects? And if we take those podcasts, and we generally recommend that you take maybe 3 examples as you go. If you take 3 examples of a podcast, and you can then go ahead and see in the consume phase, what do these podcasts do? How do they make me feel? How do I react to them? And that's the first phase, is we actually take a look at them. We say, do we like it? Do we not like it? Is it a good story? Is it not a good story? And then we say, all right, what do we do with that afterwards? And we're going to take the analyze phase, and we're going to say, all right, how do we create a rubric for each of these that we can look at and say, how is this story being told? Is there a dramatic question with an example? Is there structure to it? Are there, musical accompaniments to it that make sense, that actually are incorporated? And we have all kinds of rubrics that we can apply. The key is to have a rubric that makes sense for your class. And then what do? We say, okay, how can we start practicing to tell these kinds of stories, right? So what skills do we lack? Do we lack storytelling skills? Do we lack technical skills? Do we lack critiquing skills, critical skills, right? So these are the questions that we're going to be asking. These are the skills that we're going to be working on. If we don't have a technology that we need to create a podcast, well, then we'd have to create it, or we'd have to learn to create it. If we don't understand what a hook is for a story, if we don't understand what a dramatic question is, then we need to scaffold that part of it. And if we don't understand how to critique so that we can improve, we need to practice that. We need to get better at that. And we can always hone our skills, right? So let's move on to produce. Produce, to me, everyone makes a big deal about produce, but it's actually, for me, it's the least important piece. It's that piece where you put everything together, all of your learning, all of your scaffolding, and you create something that you can actually then assess. It's the assessment piece that's really interesting to me, because now we're going to take that same rubric that we used in the analyze for the consume piece when we were looking at these other works that other people created as content for the course. And we're going to say, how can we assess this? How can we assess our own work so that we can improve, and we can use that same exact rubric to assess the work that we've done and that our peers have done. So this is the basics of CASPA, and this is the CASPA framework.